What's up, everybody? Back in the studio again. Got a real special guest for you today.
Very special.
TK Hamilton. Did everybody call you TK Midian?
No.
No? Am I the only one?
Yeah.
Dang it. Well, cool, man.
They may have me in their phones like that.
Yeah. Well, same with me, man. Back when I used to do the stump grinding, people had me in their phone as the grinder man, the stump man, Keith Grinders.
Oh, yeah.
Or Grinder Z. Back when I first started my business, it was called Grinders, but I did the Z a little bit different just to be kind of marketing. And it was a mistake because people would call my business Grinder Z. And a lot of people thought I was Hispanic because they had that Z like a Zorro or something, you know. So,
hey, it worked.
Yeah.
It worked. Shoot.
Yep. Well, cool, man. I appreciate you being here today, and looking forward to getting to know you better. I know I've known you for a long time.
Yeah.
And you're a very impressive human, in my opinion. Seem like you've accomplished a lot.
Yeah, sometimes I'm a legend in my own mind.
But, you know, from a entrepreneur and a dreamer and a visionary, and, you know, I know you got many more years of life experience than I do, but sometimes I wonder, you know, I got questions. So this is my time to kind of maybe learn and be inspired from you that's been doing it for a lot longer. So yeah, I mean, I know there's a lot that we could touch on, and there's no way we could cover it all in a podcast episode.
Yeah.
I mean, you've built a company, and I guess I'll start with, for the listeners that don't know who you are, from Rome. You've been pretty much in the roofing business for all your life, and you got a company now that. How many employees?
Oh, we're running about 22 employees, but we do a lot of subcontractors because we got so much work. There's no way that you could operate a business like this and have that many in-house employees and stay competitive in this market because it's so saturated. You wouldn't think roofing is saturated, but it is because of the new wave and the new process, and they think a lot of the younger generation think you can get rich quick scheme.
Yeah,
it's kind of wild. It's like the Wild West show sometimes. They during the summer times or during our peak seasons, we may be running up to 90 people.
That's with in-house, and then you said subs.
Yeah, subcontractors.
So when you say subs, like subcontractors, they're not in-house, but like you still got to have some kind of standards, right, for your subs. Like they got to be. You can't just.
We vet all of our subs, and we try to make sure they're dedicated to us. It's not like they're got their own company or anything, but they just want to work. They want to work every day, and if you're loyal to them, they'll work for you every day. And it's basically an employee that you're not micromanaging.
Okay.
And they're taking on some of the risk, but they're getting paid for the risk. Like they have to have their own insurance. They have to have their own tools. You can't tell them exactly what time to come in, exactly what time to leave, but we do hold them to standard. Like we vet these guys. They have to go through. We have a Midian Roofing University. You know, I wrote a book, a manual on that. It's actually a whole process, but we don't make them go through that whole entire thing.
Just certain pieces of it. Yeah, they know they're good.
They have to have a standard of, in the standard for roofing houses is industry wide. There is a standard. All manufacturers have a standard,
right?
And we try to follow the manufacturers.
That makes the material you're putting on the roof.
Yeah, they have a recommendation,
right?
We try to follow those guidelines and then go above and beyond. When we hire these subs, we have a Midian employee on site every day, all day long, continuing to watch quality, asking questions, communicating with the homeowner.
Gotcha.
Doing everything by the book, making sure all the processes are going like they should, all the procedures. And it helps to keep the problems down, period. You know, when you got management, you manage the problems.
Right. Well, you've built would you agree you've built a really good company? I mean, you got you've been doing it for how many years?
I started when I was 18.
You're how old now?
Oh, 51, fixed to be 52. There was a few breaks in there, and this is my fourth go around at the roofing business, and we've been in it for 22 years. So
I read
a lot of learning curves.
Yeah, and you said earlier you wrote a book, and I didn't know you wrote a manual, some kind of, it's almost like a school that you built your own curriculum for roofing. And if I remember correctly, you allow people to come in and get like trained under this curriculum and certified, and you're with the state or some kind of group.
It is a state certified program that I wrote for a year, all the processes and procedures that the state was requiring and the federal government. It could be a federal program if I put it in enough places, but we went through that process for an entire year before I even approached the state. I had everything they wanted, and then that process took another year after I had everything they wanted. But this program is I forgot the word they used. God, it slipped my mind. But anyway, I wrote this because you got to retain knowledge in any business. And there's almost impossible for any person to remember every single detail about every single process when you do 50 different processes.
Right.
So this book is to be redundant and repetitive and to keep it in their face. Even when we go through the manual, I mean, it's a 5-year program. If you come in knowing not anything about roofing, in 5 years, we can have you almost to an expert like level if you'll listen.
Does that include like selling? Or is that that's just roofing?
That's just roofing.
The manual
that's
labor
just
part.
roofing only. And we got a lot of process and procedures that we follow that don't have anything to do with roofing. We even put personal hygiene. You know, we're not only trying to build roofers, we're trying to help young men become men. You know, how to act, do you want to be a responsible, productive member of society, or you just want to keep muddling through life? You know, we got a plan. It's a plan. It's part of a big plan. You know, you can go through this program. You can get $1 a year raise if you just show up. You can get $2 a year if you hit all the benchmarks in this program. It's a hands-on and it's book.
Cool.
And we try to create a clear pathway to success for any human that comes into our establishment or our presence or our building, because there's nothing worse than waking up every day going to a job that there's no path. Like you have no way out or way up. And it's not for everybody. And we try to encourage people, listen, we're going to give you an opportunity, but if it's not for you, it's okay.
Right.
We want to help you succeed, whether it's here or anywhere else.
And hopefully the stuff that you do teach them while they are there, outside of roofing, they can apply to other areas of their life.
Oh, yeah, because we're trying to teach them to be better human beings, period.
Right.
And when they go through this program, they got an opportunity that they can go through Foreman Site Superintendent Manual that we've are in the process of publishing. We've been teaching it for years. We just didn't publish the manual. We kind of jumped the gun and went from job foreman superintendent to project manager. We already produced that manual. It's already published. And the process is go through the apprenticeship programs. Hybrid was the word I was looking for. You got to have hands-on plus classroom training.
Right.
And every single one of my technicians go through at least 2 hours of training every week.
Every week?
Every week.
Wow.
Whether they want to or not.
Is it paid?
Yes.
Paid training?
Oh, yeah.
And it's done in is it classroom or on the job training?
Well, it's in a classroom.
In the classroom, but I've seen some pictures. You have like a space where you can, if it's more hands-on, you can like replicate like a roof, and you have like shingles and like fake trusses and plywood and stuff.
At the end of every single chapter, we have a test. And we have a written test and we have a manual test for every level, for every tech level 1, 2, 3, 4. And they have to pass a written test and a hands-on test. And we have mock-ups that they go out and test on.
Yeah.
And prove their abilities. It's not just you do this, you're going to get this award. You got to actually prove it.
Right. You mentioned the words a productive member of society earlier. At one point you wasn't so productive of a member of society. Were you?
No, I was productive, but it wasn't. I was producing chaos.
So I know there's a lot you could go on that, but for the listeners that don't really know, kind of the cloth that you were cut from.
Oh yeah.
You wouldn't. The way you are now isn't the way you used to be. I mean, I read a little bit of your book. I'm about 3/4 of the way through it.
Yeah, you're a slow reader.
I'm a very slow reader.
Here's the book he's talking about.
Yeah.
Life Rewritten. Rewrite is the name of the book, but it's Life Rewritten by the creator.
Go ahead and hold it up there, Lynn.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. I mean, you were a little bit of a troublemaker.
Oh yeah. If you want a copy of this book, it's we have it it's on Amazon.
Yeah, really cool.
Rewrite. Reright. That was a play on words.
I like that.
And God not only rewrote my life, but he made my life right. Right.
So I like how you double played that, like with the words.
Yeah.
Took me a minute to figure it out, but I like it. Pretty creative.
Probably thought too much into that.
So yeah, man. I mean, one point you were just rough around the edges, right?
I was raised in. It was a lifestyle I was raised in of chaos. The first few years of my life, I don't really, 1 to 4, I don't remember anything, but it was pretty rough. And Mom had found another guy to move in with, and things were pretty normal for a few years in my life. And then I don't want to get into all the details because there's some really good stuff in this book, and I don't want to give it away. But everybody's got a story, and some people's stories are just more dramatic than others. That's just the way it is. But mine was pretty dramatic as far as drugs and alcohol and abuse and fighting and poverty, and in the 80s. We were in the 80s living like we were in a third world country. No lights, no water, flushing your toilets with water you got from the spring down the road. I mean, it was pretty rough.
Yeah. I remember reading one section of the book where you had gotten a scruffle or something like that, running from the cops, and went up on top of a retail shop on the roof.
Yeah, it just so happened to be it was a drugstore.
Okay, great.
Yeah, they thought I was robbing a drugstore.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, I had no tools is what I told them.
Yeah.
And it was just a challenge. I mean, this was before I became a roofer, and I wanted to climb up on a roof in the middle of the night drunk. I'm climbing up a little pole. Herb's, where Herb's barbershop used to be. It was Herb's drugstore and barbershop next door to each other. And all my other friends had sense enough to come down, and I decided to stay.
And the popo got you down.
Yeah.
Cop came.
And the fire department. They brought the ladder.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, and it's pretty dramatic the way they tried to get me down, too.
Yeah. Did a certain human come in your life that influenced you or impacted you in a way where it kind of set you on a different path, or was this all kind of something you had to dig deep yourself and kind of change? Which I know that took that anyways, but I didn't know if a certain person came into your life that made like an influence or inspired you to get your act together.
It's kind of weird. I didn't have that aha moment where I thought, man, I want to be like that guy or whatever, because I really didn't trust anybody from all the abuse and all the other stuff that went on in my life. I just didn't trust humans. And they really, I had went through the whole, I want this guy to be my father figure, and I'd hang out with him a while and he would let me down, or this guy or that guy,
Gotcha.
I'd look up to, and they were always flawed, like we all are.
Lost trust totally.
Yeah, but I didn't realize that, every human's flawed. I didn't understand that, but nobody, if you have a good parent, if you have decent parents, nobody's going to treat you as good as they are,
Right.
It's just rare to find something like that, but I don't know. I just feel like there was something inside of me, and part of my story is God, and I don't want to sound more righteous than I am, because I'm not. I got problems like everybody else, but God is my story. The Holy Spirit is my story. And it was just something inside of me that wanted something different,
better for yourself.
And I didn't wake up one day with this big plan and go, I'm going to do this and this and this and this, and we're going to go down this path. And
you just had like a little bit of a burning desire that you wanted a better life. And then I guess at that point in your life, the only person you could probably trust was if there's any kind of God out there or Holy Spirit, you were talking to him and trying to get some answers.
Yeah, that was it.
You're like, maybe I can trust. If I can't trust any of these other men in my life, maybe I can trust the God upstairs.
And I didn't trust him in the beginning.
Right.
I thought I had all the answers, and I think anybody, if they're not asking for help, they already think they got all the answers. Whether they're asking God or you or Jamie or whoever. I met a guy and he started talking about Jesus one day, and I was talking to him about the Bible, thinking, man, the story is I was on this roof and it was like 100 and something degrees up there. People are like, no, dude. Well, if it's 100 degrees outside, it's 140 from the heat coming off the shingles, and the guy was talking about Jesus, and I thought, man, I'll take a break, talk to this guy, and I'll get a break. I'm kind of had a little con in me, and this guy cut me short, and he said, do you think, because I was disputing everything he said. I'm like, man, how do you know them people wasn't on drugs? Them guys was on, I heard they was on some cave writing this stuff, doing mushrooms, and he was like.
You talking about all the Bible stories and stuff?
Yeah. I was like, those guys were hippie freaks or something, they were all on drugs, and he just shook his head, and he's like, you think you could believe in heaven and hell? And I'm like, I think I could believe in that. I've been to church, a bunch as a kid. They would put me on the bus and send me.
Right.
And he said, well, do you know where you're going when you die? And I was like, no, I don't know. He said, do you want to know? I said, yeah, I want to know. He said, well, get back to work. I'll tell you this afternoon. Just like that. He's like, get over and get to work.
Oh, man.
He's pretty rough.
Yeah. That was the homeowner?
No, his name Kenneth Lambert.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a good dude. He's a workaholic. And he worked like a mule. And that day afterwards, he was like, hey, you still want to know? And I'm like, yeah. And he invited me over he said, follow me. And his mom's house was real close. And I was clueless, I had hair down here. I smelled bad all the time. Anybody ever smelt marijuana?
Do you look like, what's his name on TV?
Joe Dirt.
Joe Dirt? Was that the long mullet?
Yeah, I look better than Joe Dirt.
Okay, a little bit better. All right.
Then he wouldn't let me come in the house. He pulled around the backyard, and I couldn't even go up on the porch. He's like, you stay right there, and I'll be right back. I'm thinking, okay, man.
He wouldn't even let you on the front porch.
No, he wouldn't let me on the back porch either.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, and I'm writing another book too, and I got this kind of part into this part of the story in the book, because used to he thought we were just so terrible that he didn't want us around his family or his mom, and he didn't trust us because we were some bad characters, and we hung around a lot of other bad characters.
So he knew what you were about, the circle you were running
in. But that, or he was just in a hurry and really wasn't putting much thought into it. So maybe I read too much into it.
Yeah.
But, I want to dramatize everything. I want it to be the cooler story, but I'll ask him one day. He's still alive. I had never asked him that. Why didn't you let me on the porch, man?
Well, it sounds like, I don't want to put words in your story, but I asked you if there was ever like a person that might have had like a little bit of influence or nudged that ball to get it going the right direction. It might have been him.
Oh yeah, Kenneth Lambert. If anybody ever reads the Bible, there's a story in there about a guy named Moses who seen a burning bush. It was kind of like an aha moment. And I'd like to say it was an aha moment that I didn't know was an aha moment.
At the time, yeah.
Yeah. And it took a while.
So I guess people can change.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you hear that saying a lot. People can't change. It's who they are and how they were raised, is who they are forever. So, you You agree? You say people can really change, and
Yeah, a lot of times people are the way they are. Sometimes it has absolutely nothing to do with the way they were raised. Some people are just turds, and they're going to be turds. You know, we're all born into sin. We all have a sin nature, so you can blame it on your parents or if you want, or your upbringing or whatever. But people do change. They can change, and there's statistics about that, and the statistics are real. You know, when I was at prison boot camp, I was in a room with 100 people, and he said, two of y'all is going to make it without coming back here. And I looked around and I said, I don't know who that other blankety blanker is, but I'm not coming back here.
oh man,
I didn't have no authority to do that, but
yeah,
I'm like, dude, I'm not coming back. And I never said that. I always knew I was coming back.
So you did some time in prison?
Yeah.
Like not jail, but prison.
Yeah.
There's a difference, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I ain't never been to jail or prison, but I think there's a difference.
Oh man. I used to hesitate about telling people about that, but people label you and think, well, he never changed. He's blah, blah, blah. One of the things I pride myself on was I was always honest. Before I went to prison, it was something I feel like it was a gift that God had gave me before I even knew him. Well, I wanted to do the right thing. I always wanted to do the right thing. I didn't consider drugs and alcohol the wrong thing because I was raised in it.
Gotcha.
And it necessarily wouldn't have been the wrong thing until I started affecting others and hurting others and that kind of thing, and hurting my family.
Yeah.
That's when it was a problem. But yeah.
Do you ever come across like some young gentlemen that kind of remind you of your old self?
Oh,
and
yeah.
I guess you might have people that come through your program.
Yeah.
And you're like, you see a lot of yourself in them, and you want to, I guess, influence them or impact them in a better way.
Early on, it was my audience was every employee that came through, you know, regardless. I tried to rescue all of them. And we've got some success stories. It wasn't because I rescued them. It was because they wanted a change and they adhered to the policies and procedures, and they followed the rules.
Put in the work, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted it. They wanted to change.
You know, I've done programs in the jail. We're doing a young mentorship program now. We're being a guy from Cornerstone Concrete is teaming up and trying to take some of these younger entrepreneurs under our wings. And there's this one kid that's a welder, and he just changed the name of his company. I can't remember the name of what he changed it to, but he reminds me. He's almost got a mullet. He's real skinny, young, and he's mad at the world for the things that's happened to him. And I was mad at the world.
Yeah, and how you were raised, man, has such a huge impact. I mean, I'm fortunate enough to where I was raised in a pretty normal, peaceful family, real blessed. But yeah. I've been around a lot of people that were brought up in a toxic environment, or have parents that are just constant negativity and self-limiting beliefs. Whereas, when you're born, you're raised around that. You're like a sponge. You're like just that's kind of molding you, man. And I admire a lot of people, the people that can actually kind of rewrite their brain to get out of that box that they were kind of raised in. So
yeah, that's definitely. I remember being a kid and drinking and smoking and going, I should be learning from my parents and relatives' mistakes. I shouldn't really be doing this, but it was just part of the DNA that I didn't know anything else to do. There was nothing else to do. I wasn't trained to actually wake up, go to work, go get a job, pay some bills. It was kind of just lay around, go do whatever, and get into whatever.
Smoke whatever, drink whatever.
And, if you got it, do it, and do as much of it as you can. And some of that helped me, My grandmother was like, you got it, do it all the way, so go for it, And I'm like, the Bible says, be hot or cold, don't be lukewarm, so people ask me, I know you mess with me, you drank a little bit, and I'm like, no, if I did, you would know.
So you cut out all of it.
Yeah, if I drank a little bit, I would be in the newspaper. I wouldn't need a podcast. I guarantee you.
Oh man, so you just let that stuff go, and it's not even part of your life anymore.
I did TikTok viral sensation for doing something stupid.
And your business may not be as where it is. You'd be still door knocking.
Oh, I would be in jail or dead or homeless walking the streets. Period.
I was at home, I don't know, a few weeks ago, and it's like, I don't know, it was 2:00 in the afternoon, and I just got home early that day and was sitting on the couch, and I think I was changing my shoes. I was about to go outside and do some yard work, but the dog started barking, and I saw these two guys walk up my front sidewalk, walk up to my front door, knock, and open the door, and they were like, "Hey, we're just in the area offering free roof inspections." And I said, "No, I'm good." But I didn't know if that's the first time I've ever encountered that. But is that pretty common in the roofing world? And what's your opinion on it? And why? And I guess are they hurting for work? Why are they doing that? I mean, is it?
Yes.
Are they could just be con artists? I mean,
yes. There's 2 or 3 different answers to that question. Before we get into that, because I can go off on that all day long. What is Omni?
Oh, Omni?
Yeah. Where'd you get that? What's that about?
So me and Allie, we've been both down, we got a lot of experience under our belt as far as the fitness and helping others. And she's been down her path of, relationships, divorce, sobriety, and been down mine. And we've learned that working with people over the past 10, 15 years, that there's a lot more layers to just giving somebody a diet plan or, telling them to do this workout. Some people it works a little bit, but they'll stop. It's like there was never really like something that we thought was sustainable for people. There's more to it. We're like, what's the missing piece?
Oh yeah.
So after working with probably hundreds of people now, we've realized that it's everything. It's mental, it's the physical, spiritual. It's all got to be encompassing. If you look up the definition of Omni, that's what that means. It means all, complete, all encompassing. So that's what the word Omni means. And I figured, hey, that's and that's kind of our mission now. Is when we're coaching people, either in person or online, we're tapping into all that stuff. What are you doing for your mental? What's your mental gym? You got your physical gym, your spiritual gym. We try to train all that stuff. So it's something that Allie has been passionate about for a while. She's looking into. We both got our certification through Precision Nutrition. We're both certified nutritionists now, and we're both probably going to end up getting our life coaching certification. So not that you have to have it. I don't think you legally have to have it. But
I think it's already in you.
But we do it to learn more. Like even we didn't have to get a nutrition certification, but we learned some more skills through that program.
Something.
So that's the reason we would do it, not because we would legally have to, but to sharpen our skills, because we're human, we're still learning, and that's our goal, is to keep learning. The more we can learn, the more we can help others. So that's kind of the nutshell version of all that. To answer your question, just all encompassing. But anyway,
that Barron Stadium used to have a gym that was called the Omni.
Yeah, you hear about hotels called the Omni, and I think that's what it's most famous for.
Was it Barron Stadium that had the Omni, where WWE was at wrestling?
Yeah,
the Omni.
Omni is like a grand, like a stadium or a hotel, but never did know what Omni meant until I looked it up, and it was. I'll give credit where credit's due. Allie, when we were brainstorming on ideas to call the podcast or whatever, she actually came across the word Omni because we were looking for words that meant tapping into everything.
Okay.
Head to toe, like mental, physical, spiritual, all that stuff. So, naturally you start Googling, what word means everything? Mm-hmm. What word means all encompassing? And Omni came up, and we're like, it's kind of cool because you can get creative with the logo. Thought our guy did pretty good. with the dumbbell and the microphone.
Yeah.
Pretty good. So, got a question for you. I know me. I'm trying to grow a business. I got I think 9, 10 employees over at the nutrition shop. How did you learn to delegate or start hiring the people to do some critical pieces of the business that, you had to let go? Because, I mean, you're obviously not doing everything because you wouldn't be able to be sitting here. I mean, you seem like you can kind of schedule your day however you want it. I mean, you're not strapped to a roof. So I didn't know how you were able to transition from a one-man show to and putting that trust in somebody else's hands to keep the company reputation, good.
Yeah, there's a multi-answer to that. I mean, there's all kinds of ways of doing that. You could either read a book and figure out how to do it that way, but a lot of things has got to grow along with that. Because anybody could just start a business and say, hey, we're going to put you in charge of this, and we're going to put you in charge of this, and we're going to put you in charge of this, and you're going to put you in charge of this, but you got to have money to pay all those people.
Right. Yep.
So, you can either – most businesses just – they're going, I don't want to use the word corporate, but, like the Home Depots and the Walmarts and the massage place and the wide rates, it's a cookie cutter thing, and it's always there's already a template, and if you follow this recipe, you're going to get these results.
Right. Yeah.
That's a way, and it's already in there.
Yep.
But then I learned everything the hard way. I never wanted to read the book. I wanted to experience it, walk through it, fall on my face, figure it out. For me, and a lot of entrepreneurs, I do tell them this because I don't deal with many entrepreneurs that already went and bought the template and did the work. Nothing really changes until you're sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah.
And you could apply that in fitness, until somebody's sick and tired of their health or their lifestyle or whatever it is that they're trying to deal with, they're not going to change anything. And in business, I was teaching people how to nail these shingles on, and you got a nail in a certain spot. And used to, it was nailing the tar lines, what I taught everybody.
Right.
And all day I'd say, nail in the black, 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 until I got sick of saying it. And then I called so-and-so and said, hey, from now on, you got to tell them, nail in the black, nail in the black, nail in the black.
See, that was your first step to delegating and hiring somebody else to do that, because I found out real quick that I'm only one person, and if I wanted a business to grow and have a chance to scale, I was going to have to find a way to delegate and train people what I knew to take a little bit off my plate, because I see a lot of entrepreneurs that are just so strapped, like they're doing their thing, whatever they're doing, whether it's landscaping or baking a cake in a bakery, or electrician that is just playing all the roles, man. They're the ones, answering the phone, quoting jobs, doing the work, doing the invoicing. They're working 15, 16 hours a day to where it's affecting their health and their family life, and they just look worn down.
Yeah.
And some of them just, I get it. If you talk to them about it, they're like, I can't find good help. I just might as well do it myself. But I feel like maybe their attitudes. I feel like if they truly put some energy into finding the right person, they could train them.
Oh, yeah.
And they're out there, right? What's your opinion?
I've been hearing that since I started. I can't find any help. This was in 1988. Can't find any help. Well, you could find some help if you'd pay them enough. You could find some help if you'd train them. You could find some help if you loved on them a little bit.
Right.
The help's out there.
Just like, when I was doing the stump grinding business, I developed a relationship with a lot of the tree companies, and it seemed like that was just like constant turnover. I mean, just like every week I would go grind stumps on a crew, and it'd be different people.
Because they don't put any energy into their employees. They're all about getting the next job and getting the next check. They don't want to share in the wealth. And that was when I started Midian. That was my number one goal, was to let the people know who come alongside of me that I care.
Right.
And that we're going to prosper. It's not going to be me. That's the reason I didn't name it Hamilton Roofing or TK Hamilton Roofing. I didn't want it to be TK Hamilton Roofing. I wanted it to be Midian Roofing. I wanted it to be...
Yeah, what does Midian mean? You asked me what Omni meant. How'd you come up with Midian?
Midian. Oh, before I get on that, you asked about the employee deal. There's another scripture in the Bible that says, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Pray for the laborers. Now, he was talking about people who would spread the truth, the gospel. And the truth and the gospel was Jesus in that instance. But I'm spreading the truth when I'm being honest, and I have honest scales, and I treat people right. I have to seek employees like I do work. Actually, if you want a lot of employees, you got to put a lot of effort into that. That's what's the matter with our workforce. It ain't that they're not there. It's that people quit training. Used to, the construction world was sought after. It was a thing to look up to, is to be a carpenter or a brick guy or an electrician that was the thing until the government started pushing the college. You go to college, blah, blah, blah. And then it demonized labor like it was something bad. And I don't lean one way or the other. People are built for specific things. Yeah. But you don't demonize one thing to lift something else up. You can lift both of them up. You went into business with a plan and a strategy, and it's working for you. I went into it as the Wild West gunslinger, and it's working for me. Took me a lot longer, but I got there, Yeah. So there's different schools of thought on that. And I try not to demonize anybody's process and procedures, because there's multiple ways of getting to the same place.
Well, I definitely wasn't a school person. I tried to quit school twice, but when the guidance counselor told me I was going to have to get my parents to sign something, I was like, well, forget it. I was like, I can't quit. If they got to sign it, they ain't going to sign it. So my whole junior and senior year, man, was just, I would skip class, go sleep in my Jeep during certain periods. And man, I just wanted to be out working. I had a car detailing business. I would go to like dentist offices and use their water spigot. I would just carry a water hose and a bucket, a vacuum cleaner, 100-foot drop cord, and I would wash the dentist and some of the workers there and make a couple $100 after school every day.
Heck yeah.
And I wanted to be out working. I'm like, at this point in my life, I already know how to read. I know basic math. I don't need to know about Abraham Lincoln's wooden teeth. I want to be out working. And I definitely didn't go to college. I mean, I did some tech school stuff, but I was definitely not wired to be that patient and go to school. But I respect the people that do, man, because I'm like, looking back, I guess if I was going to go to school to learn more, I would have went to like business management or accounting. I think accounting would be huge, man, because that would help me, like, not give Uncle Sam so much money if I could strategically do my own book work.
Yeah, but if you was built like that, a mathematician, you probably wouldn't be an entrepreneur.
That's true. I'd be a really successful accountant, right?
You got to learn how to hire the mathematician.
That's it.
You got to figure out how to get the money to hire that guy.
But yeah, I mean, I started doing construction when I was 14 years old. I don't know if you know a guy named D.L. Dutton.
Oh yeah, I know
him and Wayne Robinson built a lot of the houses at Berry Forest and Stonebridge back in the late 90s. And that's late 90s, early 2000s, and that's where a lot of my first experience with working with my hands was. I was just a gopher boy at first, fetching nails and picking up sheets of plywood, handing it up to the people up on the rafters, and learned a lot. I'm appreciative of that business.
When you was doing that with Stonebridge with them, and you seen what Wayne Robinson and Toes Temple Wright and all those guys were doing, and you thought how amazing that was, and boy, they're just trendsetters. They've been doing that for like 40 years before you come along.
It's crazy.
They built half of the neighborhoods in Rome.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say half, but I started doing some
developers.
reading the history of them, and they put a lot of stuff in Rome, Georgia.
Yeah, man. So I actually helped.
So behind.
Yeah. So it's, yeah, but my experience with, you talk about kids going to school and stuff, but I do think that it's, whether you're a kid that knows he wants to go to college or not, I think it would benefit a lot of kids to actually get a skilled trades, like, what do you call it?
Skilled trade.
Blue collar. I don't know even but like a mechanic, plumbing, go work for a landscape crew for a summer.
Trade.
Even I think it would be eye opening even for somebody that they know they want to go to nursing school, or they know they want to be a lawyer, or they know they want to be a doctor. Just to kind of let it open your eyes a little bit. Go get a job. Manual labor for a summer. I think they'd learn a lot.
Yeah, I always taught my kid, I said, listen, I don't care where you want to do this or not. You need to learn some of it, because if you become a doctor or a lawyer or whatever, and you don't even know how to change a light switch or change your tire, you're going to spend all your money paying other people to do all this stuff, and you don't even know if you're getting ripped off or not. You're getting a little bit of education here, so you know what to look for later on in life.
I was talking to a teacher in the nutrition shop a few months ago, and he was saying, like, he's been teaching for like 40 years. He was saying probably at this point 90% of the males that graduate high school don't know how to change oil or check oil in a car, or add air to a tire, or change a battery in a vehicle. And I'm like, I think back to, like, even when I was in school, I graduated 2003, almost 20 years. Yeah, 20 years ago. Wow. I guess my 20-year class reunion is coming up.
Getting old.
And then I look at pictures of my dad. My dad, he graduated back in the 79, something like that. Mm-hmm. And, I look at pictures of what that generation was doing. That's all they were doing, like working with their hands and working on their motorcycles and muscle cars and working at the mill. And I'm thinking, man, it's just crazy how times change, But I do think a lot of it's going to happen either way, like technology, artificial intelligence is coming out. And, I'm not saying that I think there will always be a need for, like, skilled trades, but, like, I do see where a lot of kids is going to probably make a lot of money doing the technological stuff at the same time, using their brain instead of their back. Nothing wrong with that.
It's not their fault. Back then when we were kids, everything was junk. You had to figure out how to change a tire. I had a car one time where I had to just to go to work. And I was working off I-75 down in Florida, and I had to just go one exit. And off that exit was only 4 city blocks. I'd have to have a quart of oil and $2 worth of gas to get to work, and a quart of oil and $2 worth of gas to get home every day. So, you have to learn what you got to learn. The cars were junk back then. The 80s were terrible, and 90s, but when you come along, things were getting a lot better. And I had to go through all that with my son. I had to learn that it's not his fault that he don't act like I did. It's not his fault that he don't want to have to struggle at everything. He's just different. He was raised different, and he don't have to do that. And you hear a lot of older people blaming the next generation. Well, it's your own fault. You didn't teach them. True, it goes back to the MRU program and the trade stuff. We quit teaching. You got to teach your kids what you want them to know. Don't mean they're going to follow it, but you got to put effort into it. If you want them to be rough and do all that stuff, you got to make them do it. You got to hurt their feelings, and you got to make them do it.
Say it again while the camera's straight there.
Do what?
Say it again.
You got to make them do it.
My girlfriend's son, he's about to be 20, but he had his battery, his car wouldn't start. This has been a few months ago. And I said, well, let's jump it off. We got it started. And I said, I'll tell you what, I'll take it out and go get a battery, and I'll sit right here on the porch, and you'll be good to go. You can just Venmo me back. He didn't know how to put it in. I mean, he's like, man, I need help. He seemed so scared. So I showed him. I taught him how to do it, and I made him do it. I said, I'm going to watch you. So I made him get the wrench out and find the right size and take out, undo the little bolts, make it tight on the cables. And after he did it only took 10 minutes. He was like, man, that's easy. He was thinking it was going to be like a motor rebuild or something, you know? And so you could tell he left from that little moment with a little bit more confidence. So it's just simple stuff like that. But yeah, back on the delegating thing, that's what I've learned is what I was getting at was I worked like crazy since I was 14, you know, just constant, just grinding, man, like manual labor, working for in-ground pool companies, digging pools to landscaping, you know, with Chris Gilwin at Homescapes. I was with him when he first started.
Oh, yeah.
He had a little Toyota pickup truck, you know.
Like Chris.
A couple of guys, and we cutting cemeteries, you know, all day, running a weed eater. And when I got to a point where I was like, you know, bought the nutrition shop, and I'm like, I'm tired of like all the weight being on me. I got to learn to train and delegate things. So with time and finding the right people, I can train the people, and it don't always work out, but right now it's good. But it gives me time to be a little bit more creative on the back end and think of stuff and look at the efficiency of stuff, you know. And if you're always strapped to your business, your main thing, you're the one having to do the phone calls and the invoicing and all that, there's not much room for improvement. You know, so I always tell people, you know, like we talked about earlier, they're so strapped, you're going to have to, you know, get to a point where you find some help, and like you said, pay them.
Well, if they don't, they self-destruct
right
most of the time, or give up or quit, or just keep poorly muddling through life. But it's just like working out, no pain, no gain, man. You got to have pain in order to make a change.
That's it.
If you didn't have any pain in that, you just keep doing it. Because I wouldn't change anything. I liked roofing. I loved it. I loved getting up every day. I loved the grind. I loved the working out. I loved the weather. I loved all the seasons. I loved being out there in the element. I loved going from place to place every day. You know, wasn't never at the same place more than a few days.
Yeah.
I loved all that. And then there were certain aspects within that I loved. You know, I loved the challenge of learning the process. I loved looking back on the product when it was done. I loved to know that we solved somebody's problem. And then you start, you know, you have to deal with people, of course. And, you know, you get tired of saying the same thing every day. I trained all the people, and I trained them and trained them and trained them. And I got tired of that. That wasn't exciting no more. So then I started putting other people in charge of training. That was exciting because I'm training a trainer. That's awesome. And, you know, I could step back a little more, and, you know, I can go focus on, and that's, I think in life, I know for a fact in life, we was talking about this earlier, you're either growing or going.
Yeah.
You're either moving forward or moving backwards.
Either growing or the growing or shrinking.
Yeah, you're never standing still, and you got to figure out how to move forward. And some people move forward a lot faster than others, and that comes with its own whole world of problems. And there's people who move a lot slower. You know, and that's my business model. I try to grow slow, sustainable growth over time. I'm not the guy who wants to go super duper fast and make a lot of mistakes, because I made all the mistakes any human being could make, and I got more to make, and I try to minimize that. And you was talking about earlier about putting other people in charge. When you train people and you hand that off and you delegate that, you have to be willing to pay for another human being's mistakes.
Right. Yeah.
Now, there's companies out there that'll do that, but they'll punish that person every time they make a mistake. And we don't do that. We just try to teach them and say, learn from that one. Don't make that one again, because you're going to make more. Just try not to make that one. And that's why the manuals are in place, and the processes are in place, and the procedures are in place to minimize that. And you just got to learn how to love them through it, man.
Obviously, there's got to be like a line, though, because if an employee breaks a homeowner's window 4 times within 6 months, that's probably a problem, right?
That's somebody who's not going to learn, and if they're not going to learn, you have to
get them out.
Yeah, you have to move them out. But we don't
normally you try to teach them. You don't have to go that far.
In the beginning, I went that far. I've enabled people and would just try to love them through it for years and years and years, but you can't teach certain things. Like you can't teach a person to have a desire to care about something. You can't.
Right.
You just can't teach that. You can be an example, and for when they get ready, maybe. But it took me a long time. I had this certain employee. I probably worked him 8 years, just trying to hope he'd hear that popping noise, man. He'd hear that popping noise. He'd hear that popping noise. And finally, I thought, man, this guy's just never going to get it, man.
Popping noise? What do you mean, popping?
It's when your head pops out of your butt. And you know what's going on.
Oh, my gosh. So you was hoping he would realize it himself.
Yeah. And he didn't. He just kept saying it's doing the same dumb stuff every day, man. Every day this kid would, and the thing I used was caulking. When you put caulking on something, you got to kind of spread it in or it's not going to adhere right. And for 8 years, this kid would not do it. He would just not smear it in. And I'd have to make him go back and go make it back.
Man.
And we finally fired him. If he ever listens to this podcast, he knows who he is. I'm still friends with him. But and he got hooked up with this woman and married her. And he would go home and he'd kick the door and she'd call the cops and he'd go to jail for family violence, and then he'd leave and she'd call him back home and he'd kick the door and he'd go to jail and he finally wound up doing like 8 years in prison because he just wouldn't learn. He kept doing the same thing every day.
And then speaking of firing and hiring, do you, at this point in your company right now, do you sit in on a lot of the hiring and firing, or do you have somebody that takes care of all that?
Yeah, I don't do any of that.
Really? Wow, that's awesome, man.
And we're trying to hire. We're in the process of hiring a full-time teacher for our Midian Roofing University program because it's we want to take it to another level. And I sat in on the very last interview. They put the thing out. I had 2 people vet them. They interviewed them, and then they like, boss, do you want to sit in on the last one? I'll do that on a specialty hire, that's got to make a lot of decisions, stuff like that. But no, I give them free rein to hire and fire because I learned that I'm not the best person discerning spirit when it comes to other humans. I would always have my blinders on and just try to love people so much that I wouldn't see the truth about them and their defects or whether they fit or whether they didn't fit. And I've gotten way better at that over the years. But, there's other people that can hire better than me. So I allow them to hire better than me.
And probably fire better.
Oh, yeah. Definitely fire better because I was...
You had a little bit of
just look at them and say, hey, man, you're fired. You got to go. We're done. No explanation.
Or would you
paperwork.
Would you feel sorry for them? Like if they started like giving you a sob story or saying, I promise it won't happen again. Would you keep giving them another chance?
No.
Okay.
I had a golden rule. It was only a couple of things you ever get fired for working at my place. It was insubordination, which is meaning you just flat out ain't going to do it, or you got a bad attitude. I would fire you 4 seconds flat.
Really?
One, because my attitude was so pissy that you get 2 people with bad attitudes and you're the boss. I mean, somebody got to go.
Right.
But, I've just learned over the years that to make better decisions and allow somebody else to do that. And you got to be willing to allow somebody to make mistakes hiring people. Like, okay, you hired the wrong person. That's fine. Let's move on.
Because it could have happened to you.
Yeah.
And it's happened to me. So that's cool. And you got guys out right now roofing. The company can run on its own, whether you're there or not, right?
I could walk away from this company and it could run right now 6 months, a year maybe. Depends on if everybody stayed there and nobody died and nobody quit,
right?
It's definitely 6 months. I might have to move some money around or make some phone calls.
You and your wife could take off on a month trip to Mexico, and it's still your phone wouldn't be blowing up every 30 seconds saying we got a problem.
No, it used to be that way, but it wasn't my phone. I was always calling them. They didn't want to talk to me. They're like, dude, we got this. Leave us alone. And I'm like, okay, I think just like the last year or two that I've been able to just not even think about it when I go on vacation.
That took a lot of work, man. I admire that. I mean, I'm not quite there at the nutrition shop, but it's getting close. Like I can be. I've gone on a lot of weekend trips, and it stayed glued together. Obviously, I'm here now, and they're getting through a lunch rush. So, but I'm still in the process of handing task over to my people. Delegating. So
I think sometimes it was just because I didn't know what else to do. I didn't know that I'm supposed to be casting the vision and leading the ship and seeing what next. And the enemy or the voices or whatever will try to make you feel guilty because you're not there hands on and you're not doing this. And I learned how to deal with that. I'm giving people jobs, man. I'm giving them opportunities, and I've put in 30 years,
right?
At least 20 years of hard actual labor,
right? You did your time.
Not to mention that, but you don't have to do that. It's just all kinds of business models. It's just how are you built, and what has God got for you personally? Is the way I try to help people get through the processes of building business. Is like, hopefully. Because I think I know a little bit about you. You've got the wide rate, and you've got Spartan Smoothies, and then now you've got this going on, and you're helping your girlfriend with Spartan Girl, I'm sure. And hopefully you're going to have enough of these smaller things that you can hire a manager to help manage all of it.
Yep. At
some point, or you might change course and say, I'm gonna get rid of all that, and do this one thing.
Right.
You can just, there's a million ways of doing it.
And that can be a good lead into the next topic of what money means to you and what money means to me. Money means freedom to me. Mm-hmm. It's I like nice things, but that's not like what motivates me. Like when I sold the stump grinding business, I could have blew it all on a brand new Corvette or whatever, but I put it back into learning and educating, and went to some workshops and some different events to learn and sharpen my skill set, because I want to get to a point where I have multiple streams of income coming in, and I'm like you said, I'm putting food on the table. It's my vision that I made a reality. Is putting food on the table for 10 employees at this place, and then 4 employees at this place, and 5 here. And creating opportunities for people. I'm a real big dreamer and visionary, and I'm real creative with that. So that's kind of my goal, is where, in 5 or 6 years, if I want to go donate or volunteer at somewhere, like I love aircraft and helicopters. If I want to go volunteer at like the Tiger Flight thing at the airport, then I can do that for a week. Everything business wise, just keep rolling. And I don't have to be there for every second. It allows me to go and do kind acts of service, I guess, and volunteer my time instead of me being so strapped to the blenders at the smoothie shop.
Yeah, you ever heard that how they catch a monkey scenario?
Nope.
They take a barrel and they cut a hole in it, and it's big enough for the monkey's hand to go in there, and they'll turn that barrel over and they stick some bananas in there. It ain't a real tall barrel where they can reach in the ground and grab the bananas, but they'll reach in there and they'll grab those bananas, and they close their fists and they can't get their hand out of the hole.
Oh, man.
Then they just walk up with a net and stick them in the net because they won't let go.
Wow.
Sometimes you just got to let go.
Right. You're right.
Just go to the flight school or whatever you want to do. Then you learn that way, like, okay, we're really not in the spot I thought we was in.
I love freedom. And, I know you've got a lot more years on me, but like I said earlier, I've worked hard too to get to where I am. I started working construction when I was 13 or 14. I was sitting on a front porch in my mom and dad's house watching D.L. Dutton build a home for my mom and dad across the street off Wax Road, Taylorsville Road out there. Sitting there on the front porch, I see a man walking over. He comes up to me. It's D.L. He's like 6'7", 6'8". He says, "Boy, you need a job?" And I said, "Sure, why not?" So I'll pick you up tomorrow morning. And I think it's summertime. So he he was there at 7 o'clock the next morning in his jacked up F-150, bright red. And a nice truck at the time. It was like a brand new 98 F-150. A big chrome ladder rack, all the hoses, skill saw, DeWalt sitting on the back, getting his truck, and he don't even say anything. He just turns up the radio, brand new Pioneer CD player. It's AC/DC. My eardrums busting. It's like rock and roll. He like hits the steering wheel and does like a rock cymbal. I'm like, I'm pretty, I grew up pretty sheltered. I'm like, what did I get myself into? And let's just say the first 6 months, I learned every classic rock song because that's all they jammed out to on the construction site. I learned what the smell of marijuana was.
Probably learned how they look like, how to roll it.
But I tell you what, at that time, man, we were drying in a house a week. It was like a 10-man crew, a saw man crew. He had a crew dedicated to building corner post and T-post. He had it was crazy. It was like an assembly line. They didn't even talk. It was just like, not even conversations. So Greg, his brother, had a rafter book. He's looking at the pitch. It was like already having the notches cut out right for the pitch on a certain valley and all that. Not even, I'm like, holy crap. It was like a robots.
And you've learned a little bit of stuff from that and apply to your thinking over the years, I'm sure. Yeah,
man. So, that was cool to watch. Well, yeah, and back on your book, man, I wanted to ask you earlier, how do you go about writing a book? That takes a lot of time and patience.
Anybody can actually write a book, man. Everybody's got a story. I told you early on, and I had all the stories. I just didn't write them on paper.
Well, how do you start to write a book? I mean, you just go home or you take notes throughout the day as you think of it? Or have you just a notepad and you just start writing?
No, I just wrote stories, man, of my past, basically, and stuff I've learned over the years.
Just one page at a time.
Kind of funny, I was a ninth grade dropout, and I hated school, and I didn't know anything about English, and I wrote a book. That's pretty awesome. That tells you that there's power greater than myself out there, and I felt like God had nudged me 2 or 3 times to write this book over the years, and one day it seems like He was nudging me again, and I plainly just out loud said, I don't have time to write a book. And I felt like God whispered in my ear, and He said, I can make time for you. I'm like, no.
Lay you up in a hospital where you got.
I don't know what that would look like. I don't think He'd have put me in the hospital, but that's the image we always get. You know, God's going to get us, but He could have slowed work down. Anything could have happened, but I think I'm going to write the book. And I just sat down and wrote it like an hour a day for not even 30 days, I don't think, and had it done. And pretty much just gave it to my publisher, Lazarus Tribe. It's a local girl here. She's got an office right over. She had an office right over there across from you, across the way.
I guess that was my next question: was how do you find some? We got somebody right here in Rome.
Oh yeah,
that does that.
There's a couple of people here in Rome, 2 or 3 of them, but she was a good Christian person, and she, I knew her. Her dad actually works for me. He's my mentor. That's another whole long story, but she did all the editing and walked through the whole.
All your typos and grammar stuff.
And, I didn't have a lot of that when you got Word document that helps.
Oh, autocorrect and all that. Yeah.
There's not a lot of that. She really just had to do the spacing and the layout and the design.
Right.
And cool. Definitely words I miss or whatever. And, but walking you through the whole, actually how to get it into a book form and work through Amazon and all the ropes and that's what she did, and she still got a part in it.
And then I guess finding somebody to like, where's the book like printed? Like, is it like printed? It's not in Rome, is it?
I never asked that.
Okay.
And you'd think coming from Amazon, you'd get 100% accuracy every time, but sometimes the book comes in and it's light gray, and sometimes it's darker gray. So there's no telling where that book was made at.
Is it made in China?
I don't know. Probably Indonesia, but The book, man, is awesome. And I thought I had this idea. I'm going to write this book, and I'm going to go on this speaking tour, and we're going to sell these millions of books all around the world and all this great stuff. And the dang book launched on April Fool's Day, 2020.
Was that on purpose?
No, it wasn't on purpose. But what happened shortly after that?
COVID?
Yeah, the whole world shut down.
Yeah.
And then there was a lot of personal stuff that went on after that, and I won't put that out there, but if anybody wants to know, I'll tell them personally one-on-one. But tragedy just hit my entire life, and I'm like, God, I thought this was going to go a little different than this.
So, yeah, I mean, there wasn't nobody really shopping for books at that time.
No, I think they were after that, but nobody knew about it. I didn't have social media following at the time, a big one, and I didn't have no speaking. I couldn't go have any speaking engagements lined up to get the word out. And every single person that's ever read it said how awesome it is. It's an easy read. You read it fast. I mean, it's chock full of miracles. Who don't like miracles?
Yeah.
And the people that God used in the miracles, and I mean, it's just pretty dang awesome. And if you want a copy of it, you go to Rewrite. There's a couple of rewrites out there, but it's a woman author. But you look up Rewrite, Life Rewritten, and .com on Amazon, or you can go to Life Rewritten on. I have a Facebook.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be my closing question. Was how can people keep up with you? You got your.
Yeah. We got Midian Roofing. TK Hamilton. We got
Facebook, Instagram.
Rewrite, Life Rewritten.
You got YouTube channel?
Yeah, we got YouTube, but I just do random stuff on YouTube. I don't. I'll probably put some of this on there. We do roofing videos on there. We do life lessons on there. We do just whatever. I've never honed in one certain thing to deal with, and I'm getting better at it. Social media is another whole new world for everybody, and it's always changing. Everybody's
got their different skill sets. I follow a guy, I won't mention his name, but he's old school, but he's got like the system in place. He's doing good. He's got the website, and it's all like automated, and he's got like a huge library of courses you can take, and that's what I'm working on too with a company. But he's not active on social media. He don't have a podcast. He don't, I'm like, if he would just learn how to tie that into what he's currently got,
right,
it would just explode his business. But here I am. I'm really strong with social media. I got the podcast, but I'm striving to get his system that he's got in place.
Right.
So it's funny to me how usually somebody's missing like a piece.
Always.
I'm like, how cool would it be to get all of them? Check marking all of them.
What's funny is when you know what piece you're missing, but you're not willing to go get it and do it.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to figure it out.
I know a lot of the pieces I'm missing in my social media, but
well, you're doing it
slowly.
You're doing it
slowly.
Well, cool, man. Well, I appreciate you being on. Anything else you want to add to the episode?
No, not really. I appreciate you allowing me to be on here, and hopefully we can inspire people to keep growing in life and keep getting better, and whatever that looks like for them. And
don't be scared to, like we talked about earlier, I know I'm going to probably have a lot of entrepreneurs listening to this that own businesses, but I really encourage you to let go, and don't be scared of giving somebody some responsibility and take some weight off your chest.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm looking. That's been my next person I'm gonna hire, social media person after this MRU deal. We've been looking for one.
Well, cool, man. Well, I appreciate you, and we'll catch y'all next time.
All right, see you, buddy.
See ya.